Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Council public hearing for Tuesday, April 16th. I apologize for getting a little bit of a late start. If you will please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now, making his way to the podium, Town Manager Ray Carpentino for the presentation of the Town Manager's Town of Rocky Hill 2024-2025 proposed budget.
Okay, if we can bring the screen down, dim the lights. Are we ready for this journey? Good evening. For the record, my name is Ray Carpentino. I am the town manager. And in accordance with section 804 of the town charter, I present to the town council the town manager's proposed 2024-25 budget. As was introduced last year, we prepared this year's budget utilizing the web-based format software provided by ClearGov for ease of use, clarity, and transparency. Just before I get into this budget, I need to mention that this budget would not be possible without the knowledge, expertise, and tenacity of our Director of Finance, Mona McKim. And we all know Mona. We know her ability, so thank you. Just a quick look back to fiscal year 2023. The 2023 budget was a year of adjustment. Funding for staff positions were frozen. Hiring of newly approved staff positions were delayed. Training budgets were cut to the bare minimums. Many routine maintenance and facility repairs were deferred. And we had little investment in capital improvements, mainly due to high debt levels due to referendums in the past. These actions were taken in anticipation of preparing this year's budget, the reval year, prioritizing financial management systems to appropriately fund capital projects and investments well into the future. The 2024-25 proposed budget focuses on long-term financial stability, long-term planning for infrastructure and maintenance, incorporating GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, best practices, retaining educational excellence, and providing enhanced levels of service to meet the community needs. That. This budget sets out to reduce reliance on borrowing and minimize the need for sudden tax increases or service cuts to fund unexpected expenditures, all while strengthening the town's credit worthiness. That is our focus for this budget. Now, I'll be reviewing this budget, are you ready? From stem to stern. And we'll be looking at reval, bonding, bond ratings, fund balance, debt service, capital improvement reserve, expenditure highlights, revenues, the mill rate, and a taxpayer impact scenario at the end. Okay, let's look at the grand list. The grand list saw a 2023 grand list saw an overall increase of 28%, or almost $645 million. The driving force behind that increase, of course, was the increase in real estate value at 35%. Both personal property and motor vehicles lost value. Personal property lost 2.8% due mainly to the vacant office space, and also a shift into work from home schedules, as well as some right sizing or downsizing of business operations. Motor vehicles saw a 3.5% decline due primarily to just reduced value of used vehicles. The overall increase in the grand list over 2022 was 28%. So to normalize the mill rate, that is to have a zero increase, no increase whatsoever, the mill rate would have to be set at 27.80 mils. So it's time to set an even keel. So let's take a look at some major bond rating categories utilized by Standard & Poor's when they're evaluating creditworthiness for municipalities. And we have several categories here. Liquidity, economy, you can see these in red, and they're in red for a reason. Debt and fund balance. And S&P assigns a score of 1 to 3, 1 being the best or highest. And we do well in 4 of these categories, and we do not do well in 2 of them, debt and fund balance. These are areas for improvements based on GFOA best practices. Let's take a look at our debt. This is an interesting table. If you look at the very right-hand column, this column is a summary of the principal interest payments that we are incurring due to borrowing our capital improvements. So you see by 2041, the town will have paid $96 million in principal interest payments. This table this clearly shows that, yeah, we will be reducing our annual debt payments quite a bit. Even down to in 2041, we should be in good shape. Maybe, hopefully, incurring $1 million a year expense in debt, principal, and interest payments. If there are no referendums in between, and we all know that's not going to happen. Let's take a look at our fund balance. I'm sorry about those arrows popping up prematurely. I couldn't get that to go away. Fund balance as of June 30, 2023 is set at 5.2%. The proposed contribution from fund balance for 24-25 is set at $450,000. We have a town ordinance that requires fund balances in excess of 6% be transferred to the capital budget. So as you can see, we will have zero funding for capital this year. GFOA best practices, they recommend 2 months of operating in fund balance. And here's the catch. That should be at 10 or 15%, not 5%. So what we're recommending and what we need to do, we should be focusing on building this fund balance, reducing the use of debt for our capital improvements, building our reserves for infrastructure. Look at capital improvements, this quick chart. Capital improvement spending through general fund. You can see starting around 2019, a decline in our spending from general fund for capital improvements over the past 10 years. So I think it's time to right this ship. So these next set of slides deal with implementing capital reserves. We're proposing an ongoing reserve level of $1.2 million for the Board of Ed for capital improvements without incurring debt. And for fiscal year 2025, you'll see several items that the Board of Ed has prioritized for this year. $50,000 for tech ed and media center improvements for Griswold Middle School. Improvements to McVicker Field bleachers, replacing the pump at the high school pool, constructing the security entrance at Griswold Middle School, improving the science classrooms at Griswold, and roof replacement at West Hills School, the first $100,000 of that project, and the first $700,000 of the HVAC at Stevens School for a total of $1.4 million. We're also proposing an ongoing reserve level of $1 million for capital improvement infrastructure. And here you'll see 3 projects for fiscal year 2025. We're proposing appropriating $200,000 for the Rocky Hill Community Farm Phase 2, $750,000 for the Belden Lane Culvert and Bridge repair, and $200,000, up to $200,000 for a study on the space needs for our Public Works facility and transfer station. And we're proposing an ongoing reserve of $250,000 for parks and facilities to prepare for costs without incurring debt. And here you'll see several items, $60,000 for the Maxwell Park hockey deck replacement. Again, in the indoor pool maintenance repair, this is for the grout in the main drain. A $50,000 appropriation to look at Elm Ridge pool, whether a liner or a splash pad or some other solution. And $140,000 for Firehouse number 2 roof replacement for a total of $300,000. This chart just kind of summarizes the previous charts we looked at. You can see in yellow that those are the 3 slides we just looked at. There are 5 new proposals here. Funding year 1 of a 2024 Freightliner truck. First $55,000 payment of a 5-year lease. A $15,000 payment for F-350 pickup truck 4-year lease. $40,000 annually for 5 years for a reval. And we're looking at purchasing 2 electric vehicles and a charging station for $79,000. That will be reduced with some federal credit program we're working on with our insurance carrier. And about $181,000 to replace the aged police generator. There is a grant pending, and if that grant's approved, that will cover 60% of that cost. And then we have under contract continuing leases for equipment, vehicles, town aid, and LoCIP, and the RLE, the energy efficiency program with Eversource for the HVAC and lighting upgrades at $1 million, just over $1 million. So the total general fund capital improvement budget would be just over $3.8 million. All right, are we ready to go through expenditures? Let's batten down the hatches and let's get to it. It's going to be choppy out there. So, here's an expenditure comparison. This chart shows the percent increase in the proposed budget by major categories. For example, operating budget, we're showing an 8.4% increase. Education, their operating budget is showing a 5.4% increase. Debt reserve actually reduced somewhat. And then you'll notice both in the capital town and capital BOE, some very high percent increases. That ties back to our reserve proposals for each of the Board of Ed, town, Parks and Rec, and facilities, for a total percent change of 8.6%, or $8,219,129. That 500% increase for the Board of Ed, that's $800,000 increase from our $200,000 appropriation last year for their capital. This chart, excuse me, shows the percent of budget, but percent of budget by major category. So, for example, I didn't get that out correctly, but what it says is the town operating budget comprises 36% of the entire budget, Board of Ed 52.7%, and downward to capital improvements for the town at 2.5%, debt service at 7.6%, and capital improvements for the Board of Education at 1.2%. For a total of an 8.6% overall increase. Here are some beautiful pie charts that say the same thing that we just talked about, but you can see it graphically. Board of Ed, total budget 53%, town operating 36%, and coming in third would be the debt service. Again, the increase by major category, again, education at 34%, capital reserves 28%, contractual 12%, and coming in fourth place would be the health insurance. This slide is an illustration of the mill rate changes by category, separately looking at the town only and the education only. The proposed combined mill increase of this proposed budget is 2.84 mills, with the town comprising 1.56 mills and the Board of Education comprising 1.27 mills, almost equally split, very close, with the proposed combined town and Board of Ed comprising of 2.84 mills for a total mill proposed at 30.64 mills. Expenditure highlights. Our expenditures are comprised of contractual increases, proposed new positions, general debt increases, contingency reserve increase, and education increases. And I'll show you the breakdown for these. Contractual increases consist of salaries and related costs at almost $670,000. Fees, services, and equipment at just over $1 million. And included in this category is a $306,000 increase in our MDC payment, the $250,000 increase for the RLE project mentioned earlier, and this shows a $125,000 increase in the Aetna ambulance services contract, but that will be reduced significantly, over 60%, as we get through this budget process. $120,000 for early voting for the tabulators, and $605,000 increase for health and liability insurance, and that figure reflects savings of converting to the state health plan. We are proposing 2 new positions and unfreezing the currently existing position. I'm proposing to unfreeze the longstanding Economic Development Director position at $112,000. I'm proposing to fund the new HR specialist position at $90,000, which was approved by the council in December, and a new position of communications coordinator in the police department for $95,000. General department increases amount to $373,000, and they include routine facility maintenance of parks and equipment, repairs, tree care, etc. Legal costs, especially for our tax appeals due to reval, increases in training and uniforms for the fire and highway departments, and an increase in grinding services for highway and parks. Our contingency reserve increase is $105,000. And of course, the Board of Ed is an increase of almost $2.9 million. Here we have the proposed superintendent's budget, as well as the approved Board of Education budget. I am holding with the approved Board of Education budget. Of course, it's as mentioned, a $2.8 million increase, a 5.4% increase. All right, let's look at revenues. We all like money. We do have some increases in revenue. Property taxes are showing a 10% increase. State grants are showing a 6.1% increase. Investment income is doing very well again, at almost a 67% increase. If you look at the transfer from fund balance, it's even though it's almost a 10% increase, it's only $40,000, and then we have a large loss of almost $1.1 million of ARPA funds, for a total change of $8,219,000, or again an 8.6%. Okay, to wrap up this budget, we're getting very close to the end. This is that scenario I mentioned at the very beginning. Here we have two columns in the middle and one to the right, 2024 tax bill at the current rate, and a 2024-25 tax bill at our proposed 8.6% increase rate. So a assessed value of a home at $200,000, which is probably around $350,000 to $380,000 house, at a current mill rate of 35.92, will yield a tax. Well, it did yield a tax bill of $7,184. Move to current year with a current budget proposal. That assessed value, assuming a 30% increase, would have increased to an assessed value to $260,000 at a proposed mill rate of 30.64 mils, resulting in a tax bill that is $782 higher per year. And then when we add the vehicle tax to that, we're looking at probably around a $20,000 car assessed at $14,000 at a state maximum mill rate of 32.46 mils. Looking at a tax bill of $454, moving to the proposed budget an 8.6% increase. That same car's assessed value has dropped to $12,600, looking at a 30.64 mill rate, and we're looking at a $68 reduction in that bill. So going down to the combined, you'll see the two values. We're looking at a 9.3% increase in our proposed 8.6% budget, amounting to $60 more a month in a combined payment. Now, we did add another column here looking at a bare bones budget, bare bones meaning staff and contractual increases only, and which would represent a 4% increase. And then looking again, I won't read all the numbers, but at the very bottom, you'll see that under this 4% increase, we're looking at a $29 a month increase, not even a $30 a month difference between the two budgets. Okay, to wrap it up finally, town manager's proposed budget stands at $103,457,435. An increase of 8.6%, with a proposed mill rate of 30.64 mils, which is a decrease from the prior years of 5.28 mils, an increase from our normalized mill rate, a zero increase of 2.84 mils. So let's embark on a journey of smooth sailing and your team thanks you for letting us do this presentation. And here is your beautiful team. Now you have to guess who's who. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That was wonderful. We will now move on to You've scared them away. So I'm going to read it anyway. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment remotely should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 o'clock on the day of the meeting, at which time a link will be provided to attend the meeting as well as instructions on how to participate. And seeing nobody in the audience, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.